News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Brought to you by Stonehenge Pizza. To be perfectly honest, our pizza is not very good, but at least our restaurant has a cool name. At Stonehenge Pizza, truth in advertising is our main ingredient, and we trust it will help us earn your business. Stonehenge Pizza. We also failed our health inspection.
Yes. I think they call that managing expectations, Allan.
No, that's why I was out sick last week. I went there.
Oh, he hit up Stonehenge Pizza. Anyway, welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
And I'm Allan Gilbreth with, let's see, who am I with this week? Let's go with darkoakmedia.com.
All right, you sure you got that figured out? And we got our buddy Max behind the glass, who was he was missed last week, Allan. It's good to have you back, Max. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And, of course, we always invite you to go over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like and check out all the action over there. Well, Allan, suddenly winter showed up here in the Mid-South.
Who turned that on?
Yeah.
Oh,
my gosh. And, Allan, it came home to me in a big way this week. I've had my kitchen pipes freeze twice this week. And, I mean, I do the precautions. I open the cabinet doors. I leave the faucets dripping. And yet, even among all that, and I think it has to do with my the faucet handle. I think there's something there. So we're gonna get into that. There's lots of cold weather things that you have to think about when winter shows up. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. We've got our must-have item of the week. We got our buddy Jay Hill dropping in shortly.
Awesome.
Roofing issues never stop. That's a 365-day a year, 24-hour-a-day situation. So we're going to do that. If there's time, Allan, I'd like to talk about a really interesting project I'm in the middle of in refurbishing 140-year-old antique doors. That's what I'm in. I'm in the middle of that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, and anyway, you've got something interesting you're going to share with us, and we're not going to tease it at all.
Nope. We're just going to throw it at you.
So it's all coming at you today on Tool Talk Radio. But before we get to any of that...
And now, Tool Talk Radio's weekly salute.
Sometimes you just need to take a load off. Okay. After winning the 2016 World Series, Javier Baez took a load off, spending that postseason winter relaxing at his Florida farm. You wouldn't think he's a farmer, would you, Allan? But he likes he's a country boy. After a long day of snow skiing, it's always nice to be able to take a load off and relax by a roaring fire. When Max, the producer, discovered a YouTube channel devoted entirely to posting reruns of HR Puffin stuff, he decided, in the interest of scientific curiosity, to take a load off and binge watch 50 episodes in a row, whereafter, for the next several weeks, his colleagues at Cumulus Media observed him wandering the studios with a nervous twitch and a haunted stare, performing his duties mechanically, a shell of the man he once was. Well, I could have warned him about that.
That explains a lot. I was there when it was real.
Between that and the Stonehenge Pizza, he was
It definitely didn't help.
And, of course, recently, Allan Gilbreth was forced to take a load off when he was sent to the emergency room after participating in the first inaugural Robot Rodeo, a new event designed to be more humanitarian by replacing the animals with robot counterparts. However, the festivities took a decided downturn when the animatronic bucking Broncos became self-aware and stormed the bleachers in protest, scattering fans and destroying the announcer's booth, the beer tent, and the rodeo clown's changing room, only ending their rampage when they were finally dispatched by an enraged Allan Gilbreth, wielding only a lasso and a reciprocating saw, as he made an heroic final stand in defense of the funnel cake booth. I wish I could have seen that, Allan.
Never doubt a man with a good reciprocating saw. Let me tell you.
Yes.
He can do some damage.
Oh, yeah. Yes, taking a load off is not only important for our well-being, but it also has relevance in the home improvement world, especially when we find ourselves working with heavy pieces of lumber and other large building materials. So today we celebrate one of the most basic yet necessary items for all craftspeople. My friends, we give you sawhorses.
Oh, yeah.
Never let it be said here that here at Tool Talk, Alan. Never let it be said that we overlook the obvious or the things it would be easy to take for granted. You look around, it's like, what should we salute this week? Well, there's the humble sawhorse just sitting there. So, what do you think the first sawhorse was? I didn't even bother.
It was a tree stump.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I can absolutely guarantee it was like a really big rock or a tree stump or something.
Can you guarantee because you were there?
Yeah.
Well, I can't actually give you a real story. Is that at one facility we had these huge trees cut down, and the landscaping company, I looked at them and I said, man, can you cut me 2 or 3 pieces of that about 3 foot long?
Oh, yeah.
And they did, and they rolled them over by my shop and stood them up. I could have made a fortune selling tree stumps.
Well, I was about
because they were the greatest. They were perfect. You could beat them. You could bang stuff on them. You could. There was nothing you could do to harm them.
Right.
They're tree stumps.
Yeah, but it's and it's something's kind of satisfying too when you can just
just wail
smack
on
something. You can light it. You could hit it with a blowtorch. It's just going to kind of cauterize.
Sawhorse needs to take a load off after taking all of our beatings.
Yeah, but Alan, the sawhorse. It's funny because folks, if you're new to like if you're a new homeowner or something, it's easy to say, okay, well, let's pick up a drill for the house. Let's pick up a set of hand tools. Trust me, people, get yourself a couple of sawhorses. They're so portable now.
Yes.
And pretty strong. You can get a lot of plastic ones that they collapse, and you can just tuck them behind a shelf, stick them in the back of your garage. And just having that work 2 or 3 feet higher, boy, think of how much it saves your back.
Oh,
Alan.
my gosh. Your back will love you.
Yeah.
And it really, I don't care how old you are, not being bent over like that makes all the difference on a job.
Yeah, and by the way, because I can speak from personal experience, if you're some young hotshot in your late 20s and you just bought your first, and you think I can bend any direction I want, I can lift anything I want, I can, trust me, folks, hernias, back problems affect us all if you don't take care of your back.
Absolutely.
So, it's important, but the humble sawhorse, Alan, and it's nice when you don't have to do any research. I mean, I couldn't tell you who invented it, and I don't care.
It was Lord Henry Sawhorse of Sussex. I don't know.
It might very well have been, Max. You never know. So, all right, Alan, I'm interested in hearing this is a little surprise thing you're going to bring us when we come back.
I'm just going to have one of those. You had to have been there to see it.
Okay, we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about my adventure with frozen pipes. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here on News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. We'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allen.
People really don't know how to finish wood properly.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
Once again, Max is trying to trigger me with that elitist Ron Swanson. Lots of people are woodworkers too, Ron, not just you. And welcome back. Boy, he really hacks me off with his, I don't know. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max behind the glass.
Ron Swanson, get off your sawhorse.
Yeah, no kidding, man. Who does he think he is? You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And, of course, we invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page for a multitude of reasons. We want you to share your adventures in home improvement. We want you to check out our must-have item of the week, which I've already posted, and we want you to scroll down and find links to our past episodes, which Allan dutifully posts up there, and they're Spotify. That's kind of our go-to platform.
Take us with you.
Yeah, we can be found on Spotify. We invite you to go listen to all of our past shows. Give us a 5-star review and make up a lot of nice things about us. The algorithms will thank you, and so will we. Allan, you've got something interesting to tell us about. But before we get to that, I want to tell you something I think is of vital importance, especially in this weather. My gosh. Brown Refrigeration.
Yes.
Larry Brown was supposed to be in here for the last 2 weeks, and he's swamped. He can't. Hopefully, maybe he'll make it in soon. He's a little busy these days.
You want that heater working today?
Yeah. Do you want heat in your house, or do you want to listen to him blab on the radio with us? So it's
got him working.
I'll give him that. He's got a sense of duty. He has his priorities, I suppose. So, but man, if ever there's a time of year where you have to have everything functioning properly.
Oh my goodness, yes.
But they do great work at Brown Refrigeration. They especially, not just with keeping your HVAC system up and running in top form, but also the Remy Halo system, the clean air system with the power of the sun inside your air ducts, basically.
Yeah, that is, from personal experience, I will tell you that is an amazing system. It installs in your air duct, so you actually never really see it. And the great thing is there's nothing biological left in your air.
No, it takes care of it.
It takes care of odors, smells, bacteria, viral particles, anything. It gives you really nice, clean air.
Yeah, fun fact, because if you're trying to picture this thing, folks, inside your air ducts, this thing is like blindingly bright.
Yes, they are very bright bulbs.
It's giving off UV light. You definitely don't want to look at this thing. It would hurt your eyes, but you don't see it because, like you said, it's doing the work inside. But boy, is it killing germs. It's great. And it even helps... It even can help eliminate some germs involved with COVID, which, that's pretty important these days as well.
Can't go wrong there.
And, of course, they've got their great smart home systems. They just do great work all the way around. They're tried and tested, Allan. They've been around forever. They're just good people. And if you're lucky, when you come to the Home Show of the Mid-South next month on February 25th through the 27th, you might meet Larry Brown. He'll be in the Tool Talk radio booth with us. So, but in the meantime, if you want to meet those guys, give them a call at 901-362-1881 or go to their website, brownref.com. Well, Allan, before we get down to business, you showed us something off the air. You said you need to give a shout out to a particular group.
Certain things just catch your attention sometimes. And now, have you ever been to South Pittsburgh, Tennessee?
I don't know. I've been all over, so I'm not sure.
It's kind of out towards Chattanooga.
I've probably driven through there because it's real pretty out there. Yeah.
Well, they have a very soft spot in my heart because that is the home of the Lodge Cast Iron Company.
Okay, Max keeps track. We're up to 2 food references today. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just
Allan.
pointing out, since 1896, these nice people up there have been making... cast iron cookware.
Can I tell you something, Allan? Because I grew up in Chicago, and I've lived in San Diego and a lot of other places, and I don't remember cast iron being all that big a deal until I got to the South. Apparently, this is a cultural thing, right? I mean, everything goes in the cast iron skillet.
The cast iron skillet is the 4-wheel drive of cookware. How about that? There you go, guys.
That goes on a T-shirt.
I got you a motor mouth reference there.
There you go,
bud. No, seriously, this is just one of those things. It is such a heavy-duty piece of equipment. It is honestly passed down from generation to generation.
Well, that's the thing. You can't kill these things. They're just...
I've seen 1 or 2 killed, and it took a lot of effort.
Right.
If you ever watched Disney's Tangled... You discover how durable a cast iron skillet can be.
Oh, that's a pretty clever movie. I like that one. Yeah.
Man, she wears some people out with that skillet.
Yeah.
So they're getting ready to do their company's museum.
Ah, okay.
So they're kind of getting, they're having a big deal this year. So they're doing all this. Well, for anybody about a week ago driving down I-59, you got to see something I promise you will. It's a rare sight.
Okay.
For their museum they built, and of course, being the Lodge Cast Iron Company, they didn't Photoshop it. They didn't make it out of foam. They didn't have something, decoupaged up or whatever. They actually made an 18-foot long, from handle to handle, cast iron skillet.
Okay, Allan. People might go, oh, wow, that's interesting. That's not like making an 18-foot long, pizza crust or something.
No,
this is like,
no.
I'm just thinking of what's involved in actually pulling this off. Who's the metal worker that did this? What did they make this in? How much metal did it take?
Well,
who lifted it? I mean, man, holy smokes.
And there's a great picture on the internet of it loaded on the back of an 18-wheeler and being trucked to its final destination.
And is it functional?
Yes.
Could you make the world's largest omelet in there?
Yes.
Just makes me think of Attack on Titan. Like the Titans now want to learn cooking.
Yeah, if the Titans ever want to start cooking their victims, they've got
Here is a
perfect
14,000-pound cast iron skillet.
That's food reference number 4.
Okay, wait.
No,
now,
3.
In terms of a car, because a car is typically, 2 tons or something?
Yeah.
So that's like 7 cars.
Yes.
Hey, that alone makes me want to go support this company. That is obnoxious and fun. I love that.
You saw this and you just went, yeah, I'd have done it.
I could just picture the music Ride of the Valkyries playing as they're going down the highway.
And I'm picturing the poor truck driver with a 15,000-pound load in the back of his truck on those hills going up and down in and out of Chattanooga.
You need all the musical motivation possible in that situation.
Alan, okay, a couple, and I don't want to beat this into the ground, but here's the thing. So, okay, 14 tons.
14,000 pounds.
Okay, 14,000 pounds. So that's
7 tons.
Let's just say the weight of 7 cars. Okay, well, transporting that thing involves, because you can't put it horizontal. You can't put it on its back. You can't put it horizontally. It wouldn't fit down the road.
No.
You have to put it vertically.
Yes, they have it propped on about a 20-degree angle in the back of the truck.
Okay, well, think of that is nothing to sneeze at, folks. You got to think of the support that requires. You got to think of, it could easily just snap in half if it's, that is some logistical nightmares.
That makes me think of that one deep cut we did a while back about transporting houses. Imagine the difficulty of transporting a house-sized skillet.
Yeah, I'm picturing...
It weighs as much as your house.
Wow.
Okay,
and it made it successfully, I suppose.
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, there's a wonderful little video of it and the superstructure brace that you're talking about.
Exactly.
Holding this thing upright. Because, again, you couldn't lay it down. It's too wide across. So this thing is standing up at about a 20-degree angle on the bed of the truck with a massive amount of chain and steel girder superstructure underneath it to hold it on the truck.
The truck's got to be reinforced. We need Bud from Motor Mouse dropping in because there's so many. Alan, we might need a follow-up on this story because just the logistics of getting this giant skillet to its home safely is pretty impressive. So hats off. The Lodge Cast Iron Skillet Company?
Yep. Well, it's just Lodge Cast Iron. And, these are the people that for every specialty cooking store or every outdoorsman store, they have a section devoted to Lodge Cast Iron products.
Wow.
And these are also the products that you'll see on the internet when somebody says, well, I found this skillet buried under where this house was 100 years ago, and we're going to restore it.
And that's the only thing that survived.
The chances that it is a cast, it is from this company is pretty good.
Wow. It's impressive, and I just like the notion of doing something just because. They didn't have to do this, and look at all the work involved.
The running gag is, the running joke at the company is the owner wanted to fry up 27 ostrich eggs.
Well, that's pretty impressive, Alan. I have to admit.
So I like Max's version. If I see one of these in Attack of the Titans, I'm gonna roll out laughing.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool, Alan. Well, maybe you could post this story because this is
I will definitely get it posted up.
This is definitely something we would like to celebrate on Tool Talk Radio.
We love to get off on American ingenuity and sometimes that attitude of I'm just gonna do this.
Yeah.
This is a huge celebration of we just need to do this. It just needs to be done.
Absolutely. And I wonder how much business this is going to drum up for those guys because,
well, you know what? Next time I'm in the area, I will go in just to see this.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I want to see it live. I've seen it. I've seen the pictures. I want to walk up to an 18-foot skillet and just stand there for a minute.
Yeah. I wonder how long it'll last. I guess it's one
So
of those...
if the apocalypse ever happens, we just got to have recourse to this skillet company.
Yes.
Oh yeah, they'll be survivors. These guys are gonna make it. So, Alan, well, okay, hey Alan, I'm gonna put a pin in things because we got a little carried away with your cast iron skillet story, which was fascinating. And folks, check it out. I think Alan's gonna put it on our Facebook page. But we're gonna have to discuss the weather and everything. But in a minute, we got our buddy Jay Hill coming in, so we're gonna We'll get to that a little bit later. But man, these are folks. Alan is This is a perfect example of the kind of stuff we want you to send us on the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. That's right there. That's perfect. So anyway, you're listening to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from News Talk 98.9 The Roar Memphis. We're gonna take a quick break, then we're gonna visit with our buddy Jay Hill from Big M Roofing and Remodeling.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Do you know what happens to a butter-based frosting after 6 decades in a poorly ventilated English basement?
I I guess I hadn't.
Well, I have a feeling what you are about to go through is punishment enough.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
Food reference number 4.
Food reference number 4, one of Max's best rejoiners ever. And Alan, I don't want to find out what happens to a butter-based frosting after 6 decades in a poorly ventilated English basement. But you probably do know.
In the interest of scientific curiosity.
Yeah.
At this point, it's called cognac.
All right, let's move it along. Speaking of moving it along, anyway, and welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbert from darkoakmedia.com, and our pal Max behind the glass, and our buddy Jay Hill from Big M Roofing and Remodeling. And in fact, you can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989. And you should know that Jay, in his kindness, he's upgraded the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline, Alan. As we said before, it's now, it lights up like the bat phone in 66 Batman, so it's pretty cool. It'll be activated when you call in. Jay, thanks, man, for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Didn't know we did that, but
And
right.
Jay's over going, wait, can I still text?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Jay, you love the winter, don't you? I mean, it's...
No, I don't.
No, it isn't.
I'm just like y'all. I couldn't think of a real good reason that I thought you guys would go for this morning for me not to show up, but I was sure trying.
Oh, I know. But, hey, Jay, off the air, you were telling us about something interesting because, if you're new to the show, of course, Jay is he spearheads. He's the founder of Big M Roofing and Remodeling, who, that's our roofers, Alan. We have one of his roofs on my house, I can say. So, but Jay, among other things, I've told you in the past that in the year or so that we've had the roof that you put on, I have noticed every month that my utility bills are lower because it keeps especially in the summer, it keeps the roof running cool, you could say. But one thing that we don't really sell enough, Alan, is the fact that I have not had any problems with squirrels ever since I got my new roof because, I was fighting a battle for 2 or 3 years with squirrels getting in under the soffits or getting in under the roof line. And, Jay, they're gone, man.
Let's tell the truth. You were getting whooped for 3 years by squirrels.
It was a full assault. But, Jay, you said you had somebody contact you. I guess they had a similar kind of situation, right?
Yeah, from the show the last time I was here, so a few weeks ago, and about a week later, a lady called me and thought that she possibly might have some wind damage to her roof. And, of course, we got out there, and it wasn't wind damage. It was squirrel and raccoon damage.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
And
that's even worse.
They were on the last day, I believe, of trying to get the raccoons out of there. They had caught one, but believed there were 3, I believe, all said and done. And, those companies do provide a service of kind of hemming up your house after they get the critters out so they won't intrude it again. And they're pretty elaborate in what they want to get done. But one of the things we do is one of the trades with the roof, of course, is install a product that's called Drip Edge. And there's many, many versions of Drip Edge, but it's basically an aluminum or a steel apparatus that goes up under the first run of the shingles and comes down as far as you need to, 1, 2, 3 inches on your fascia board to actually cover that area between your roof line and your fascia board where typically these critters get into. So we do that when we find it if someone requests that we do it. And that's really a good way because they're gonna come back through the wood. And as a matter of fact, we've learned that those critters will generally try to go back where they went in before, regardless of whether you fixed it or not.
Yeah. It's a vulnerable spot. Allan taught me, Allan for a couple of years was coming by my house, Jay, all the time. And he would notice things that I never noticed. And he would say, look, you see that black trail right there? You see that dirty black streak right by the edge? That's where they're coming in. And you would look and you would say, there's no way they're getting in under this like half-inch gap under the shingles, but they sure are, right?
They absolutely can get in. And when they want in, they will get in.
Yes.
We've actually torn off roofs before, to install new roofs and found where raccoons have bedded up in there and then couldn't find their way out. Now, let me tell you about a sight and a smell that you never want to see. You do not want them up there. And this happened to me back when I'd first gotten married, the first little condominium my wife and I had. We actually had a squirrel get up in the attic and eat all of the wiring on our furnace.
You don't know what they'll do.
They are attracted to color, I'm told, from a squirrel scientist, and literally ate all the wiring on our furnace. It's like $1,100, and that was a lot of money when we first got married.
Yeah, they chew constantly.
They like the color. You don't want that to happen.
Yeah, Critter Wars is a real thing and this isn't just the South. For those of you listening to us around the country, you have a critter that wants in your house.
Oh yeah.
And chances are, whether you're in Florida or Minnesota, you got some kind of squirrel and some kind of raccoon that wants to live with you.
Oh, yeah.
I know they're cute in the yard, and they're bouncing around out there, and they're adorable living out in that oak tree. But the minute they penetrate your house all right, well, right now today, we just had some really good cold temperatures for the South.
Yeah, it was
got
pretty
down to
chilly
like,
this
what,
morning.
15 today?
Yeah.
And one of the unknown dangers of some squirrel damage and stuff like that is that they've now opened a hole where there used to not be. So now you have what we call the air jet. Seriously.
Oh, I know.
This is where you have now basically drilled a hole, and you now have the outside air blowing straight in through that hole. And if you have a water pipe on the other side of it, it's now taking that jet of cold air, and it's a great spot to get a freeze.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, among all the other reasons to call Big M Roofing and Remodeling, it's like keep the squirrels out, man. Honestly,
actually, we could call that would be hillbilly ridge vents. That's what that would be. Yeah, you don't just come to the gable, just wherever they come in, and then it's let a little hot air out in summer.
Now, this is an interesting question because Jay, among all the other things you do, you've been a former insurance agent, which is very useful because sometimes a roof replacement or roof repair will be covered by their homeowner's insurance. Where does squirrel damage and raccoon damage come in? Is that any of that?
It doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't. I get asked that all the time. It's one of those ones that you just absolutely riding the tightrope with the insurance company. To have a roof replaced by most policies, it's going to have to be storm damage, wind or hail, namely.
Okay, now let me ask you this because it's wintertime, and because we talk about storm damage. Well, in the knock on wood, we haven't got any ice storm or anything, but an ice storm can cause water to get under the shingles. It can freeze. It can lift them. It can dislodge them. Is that considered storm damage?
Yes, that would be covered.
Okay,
of course.
cool.
We had that February of last year with the big storm where we had the phenomenon of ice damming.
That's kind of what triggered our roof replacement. If you remember, Jay, we got really hit by that thing. So
absolutely.
Okay. Well, that's good to know, man. So
let's throw in what ice damming is, because a lot of our southern folks really don't get this, and everybody in Minnesota is rolling their eyes, going, "What do you mean you don't know what this is?" So ice damming is. I'm gonna look at Jay.
Basically, it's a little difficult to explain, but let me try. What happens when it gets so cold that, of course, the water will freeze? If you've got gutters, for instance,
right,
that water or moisture, whether it be snow or whatever, is going to freeze in the gutter. And ultimately, as it starts melting or as it continues to turn to rain or to snow more, it's basically going to start going backwards, if you will.
It starts creeping up the roof.
Up the roof. That's exactly what it does. And any time that happens, the moisture's going to find a way up under that shingle, and ultimately, I don't care what you've got under there, it's going to find its way in the home as well.
Yeah. Okay.
It was crazy. We had a ton of those calls last year.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking too, Jay, because here, like Allan said, here in the South, we're kind of used to. This is as cold as it usually gets. I mean, it gets in the 20s and we start crying and start whining about it. But I just wonder what those extreme temperature changes do to your roof, because it's like you might literally have a 60-degree day and then the next day it could be 15 or 20 degrees here. What's at play with that? Because I'm just wondering what a shingle looks like when it's,
Well, the shingles are designed to be able to handle these temperatures, no matter what they are. Now, certainly in different parts of the country, there are different types of shingles that are sold that, are better suited for that particular weather situation as they have it. The big thing is not the shingles; it's the underlayments that's underneath it when it comes to this type of weather.
Yeah.
So you want a good leak barrier, for instance, in all the valleys down in the South. But up north, you'll have that leak barrier over the entire house. So it's just a difference in the way that they're actually designed, depending on what part of the country that you live in. But the shingles themselves, they're designed to take it.
Okay, cool. Well, actually, Allan, he made me think of something, and it revolves around that 30 years of stupid that Mike brought us a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
I want to let's tie into that because Jay mentioned the underlayment for a roof, and I think there's a connection there with what we were saying. Hey, Jay, real quick, how do people get in touch with Big M Roofing and Remodeling?
We're at 901-484-5645. Call anytime, day or night. We've got 24-hour emergency service. You could go to our website, bigmroofingandremodeling.com.
Awesome. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here on News Talk 98.9 The Roar Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk more about roofing systems.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
The Emperor does not share your optimistic appraisal of the situation, and he is most displeased with your apparent lack of progress.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
Yeah, trust me, Allan. If you get a call for an estimate from that guy, just run. Don't even show up, man. You do not want to fail. Anyway,
but it pays well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's fun. The funnest part of this is watching Jay Hill's blank expression because he has no geek blood in him at all. He doesn't know what was just said there.
This is all geek to me.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max behind the glass and our buddy Jay Hill from Big M Roofing and Remodeling. How do you like that? And you can even call us on the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989 and give us texts as well, which hey, Allan, I want to give a shout out to our buddy Coach Little, Cotier. I can never pronounce his first name right, so I just call him Coach. He texted in, and he was fascinated with your story about the iron skillet.
Oh, awesome!
It's funny, that was the whole conversation off the air too. You never know what the actual meat of the show is going to be, but I think so far, Allan, you're sitting on top with that 17,000-pound skillet, something like that.
14,360 pounds and could handle, I don't know, hundreds of chickens at one time. It's crazy.
The math on that, you said, is 7,200 regular skillets.
You're looking around 7 tons.
Yeah.
The average, your base cast iron skillet's 2 pounds. So you're looking at over 7,000 skillets worth of steel here.
Interesting.
Just, it's like I said, this is one of those just feel good, why not? We can do this. Let's just do it kind of stories.
Absolutely. So anyway, but let's shift gears back to business.
Back to
Jay,
getting raccoons out of your roof.
Well,
yeah.
Jay, we were talking about Big M Roofing and Remodeling, and last time you were on the show, we were talking about the remodeling work you do. But one thing, Allan, one reason it's good to have the experts come into the studio is because we get the nuts and bolts and we start examining the actual guts of a roofing system or the guts of a HVAC system or whatever. So one thing you mentioned before we went to breakout, Jay, is the underlayment, which is really it's just as important as the shingles and everything else.
Yeah, I think we find that to be true in life in general. I'm just going to make this statement. A guy told me one time that to be successful, what you've got to do is it's a bunch of things. You've got to do what the average guy won't do on a consistent basis. I mean, you've got to work hard. You've got to make the phone calls. You've got to work on your technique. It's never just one thing. And really that's true of building something, I think. It's a system. It's where all the right components go together, constructed properly and installed properly. And that's what's going to give you a good long life. But at the end of the day, that's what a roofing system is. It's a combination of a good quality shingle, good underlayment such as leak barriers, good starter strip, and certainly you want things like changing your boot pipes out, ridge vents, all of those things together. The drip edge, those go together to form a real cohesive roofing system that'll last a lifetime.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and it reminds me a little bit of painting. It's the prep work. Prep work is more work than the actual painting itself.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't, like, if you hire a painter and you come home and they've they've painted the entire place in a few hours. Don't necessarily thank them. They should be spending hours doing the caulking and the cleaning and the sanding and all that. But it's like it's the same with the when you replaced our roof, Jay. Honestly, I don't think the shingles went on till much later in the day. There was a lot going on before that. Yeah, I know you had to tear our roof off. You had to, but the underlayment and everything else, it was pretty impressive watching that go up.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the shingles go on pretty dadgum quick. A good experienced roofer, can typically just, you're talking about the cast iron cookware and how big that is and relative to the small one and so on and so forth. But, a good roofer can lay 8, 9, 10 square of shingles a day. Just one guy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about it, 66 shingles in a bundle times 3, 180 times 10. I mean, he can put down somewhere around 1,600 shingles a day just by himself. And then conversely, when you tear off the roof, of course, you've got to get that substrate ready to take those new shingles in that new roof.
Right.
And what typically takes the most time is getting that decking right. You're going to have rotten boards. You're going to have to replace those. And when you get into the 1x8s, 1x6s, 1x10s, whatever they may be, that's very, very time consuming, cutting those out, replacing those boards. And that's got to be done first, of course, before you can get moving forward. Then you're going to come back with your synthetic felt, your leak barriers, your starter strip. So, yeah, all that stuff, probably all told together, takes as long to put those down as it does to put the shingles on.
Yeah, but it's like anything, Alan. It's like we talk about with tile work. If you just slap it onto some plywood, like if you have a plywood floor without putting the subfloor on, it'll go on quicker. And it'll look great for about
it'll also come
6
up a lot
months,
quicker.
But yeah, that's the whole thing, and I guess that's why you guys can give these a lifetime transferable warranty, which I still am amazed by. Jay, tell people about that, because that's amazing to me. I don't remember that in the old days.
Yeah, it's a real game changer, and I still have people from time to time, and rightfully so, that question it. There's got to be some kind of catch. A lifetime warranty on a roof. But it's true. It really, really is. I am a GAF Master Elite installer, one of, I think, only 5 or 6 now in the entire Mid-South. And basically, as a Master Elite installer, you have the ability, through the factory, to offer your customers a lifetime, non-prorated, which is another game changer, transferable warranty on a roof. But in order for your customer to get that, you've got to build a roofing system. You can't just take the old shingles off and put new shingles on. You have to build the roof, as we were talking about just a moment ago. You've got to have a good leak barrier. You've got to have a good 50, 60, 70-pound synthetic felt. You've got to have the ridge vents so it's not so hot up there in the summer in the attic that it's baking the shingles from the bottom and the top. You've got to do things right in order for GAF to do it, but they will give you a lifetime. And by lifetime, this is what they mean. For the first 50 years, GAF will cover at 100% for the first 50 years any manufacturer's defect, whether it be cupping, curling, discoloration to factory, anything if that shingle wears out prematurely, they're going to pay it 100%. After 50 years, they'll even pay 20%. There's the lifetime right there. Nobody's going to stay in the house 75, 80 years typically. But I tell you what you will do, you will probably sell a house, and that's another game changer, is having that transferable warranty that you can put in your buyer's hand at no cost to anybody to transfer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to sell my house, Alan, but I mean, that's a huge deal. Well, that's a big improvement.
Well, your house is worth more, Joe. I mean, at the bottom line, if somebody's looking at your house and want to like it, that's impossible.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, inside joke. But looking at one similar, I mean, with that lifetime roof and warranty in the Mid-South, your home is just worth more. Period.
Yeah. And Jay, we didn't talk about all of your remodeling work, and it's interesting to me that you said that lately what you're doing is converting a lot of space into home office space, even garages.
We are. I mean, that's been a real game changer, really, that kind of started, of course, when COVID hit. And we as a society have, adjusted to working remotely, and most of the time that means at home. I think it's odd, by the way, or funny, I should say, and I'm sure y'all may have experienced this, when you're talking to somebody, whether it be at a cable company or something, wherever it is, and all of a sudden you realize this girl's at home. There's her kids. They're fighting.
Right.
Yeah, there's a dog barking to get out.
Yeah, it's crazy. But, we're pretty well convinced that 30-40% of America will never go back to the traditional workplace. So we're doing a whole lot of remodeling, adding extra space, office space in the actual home, and that's a big trade for us right now.
Pretty interesting. So, well, Jay, tell us once again, how do they get in touch with you?
901-484-5645 is the phone number, and then you can go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com and visit our website. A lot of information there, bigmroofingandremodeling.com.
Hey, do you got a picture of my roof on your website?
No, we don't, Joe.
Okay, well, thanks for nothing.
We don't want everybody to know where you live. Thought that might be trouble for you.
All right. Well, so much for my 15 minutes of fame, Alan. Anyway, hey, Jay, it's always fun talking to you, but we got to hit the break. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from 98.9 News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis. We'll be right back.
News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome to Hour 2 of Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. We're with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989, or go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like and check out the action over there. Allan, it's a story of the day, which we did not intend, but maybe you intended, is this giant cast iron skillet. People are weighing in and sending us their thoughts about that, and it's true. It's really true. A 14,000-pound skillet. So hopefully Allan will post that story. Make sure you do, Allan. We've plugged it enough. Post it on there, and you can probably Google it too. So.
Oh yes, easily. Yeah, all they got to do is look up the Cast Iron Lodge. The Lodge Cast Iron Company, and they have videos and everything.
Yeah. So, and of course, if you just woke up, like if you like to sleep in on Saturdays and you missed the first hour of Tool Talk, first of all, you have my sympathies because it was pretty fun. But never fear, you can always hear all of our past episodes. You can go to tooltalkradio.com. Allan posts the links there. You can go to the Facebook page. Allan posts the links there, or go directly to Spotify. And we suggest that anyway, because if you subscribe, you'll get notified every time we post a new show. And, of course, you can listen to some of our sister shows, or our you can listen to Motormouth Radio, Geek Tank Radio, the whole crew. So, Allan, we've been talking about the weather change, and, we're pretty spoiled here in the Mid-South. We get a pretty mild winter, but every now and again some cold temperatures show up, which I think is actually worse out here, because I don't think we take winter as seriously as a lot of folks. Like you said, my sister lives in Minnesota. They know what winter is. They understand it. But here, we suddenly, I think the feels like temperature 2 days ago was about 8 degrees overnight. Well, Allan, I know what I'm supposed to do when the weather gets below freezing. We have, in fact, our kitchen is the most exposed area. It's our kitchen sink, Allan. You've been to our house, and it's up against an exterior wall.
It is,
and just to be very accurate, the exterior wall faces east. So when the sun comes up in the morning, it hits that wall, thankfully. But 2 days in a row, Allan, I've left the pipes dripping. I left the cabinet doors open, and yet the cold water has frozen up. And I'm starting, now keep in mind, my house is 70 years old, right, people. So it was built in 1952. But I took a hair dryer out yesterday and spent about 20 minutes blasting it in, on those pipes, and eventually it dislodged it enough. And this morning I didn't have time to fool with it. But Allan, let's talk about frozen pipes, because it can be a real problem. Obviously, I sure hope it's not going to crack or bust a pipe.
Well, of course, a burst pipe is the worst possible situation.
Yeah.
And
that's the nuclear. Reaction.
That's where you're shutting off the water at the street. And I'm going to go back to one of my favorite things of the past is, do you have a water key, and do you know where it is?
Well, I know how to turn the water off, but that's a good point.
For a lot of people that don't know, out between you and the street is generally your water meter. There's a little cast iron plate out there, and you can stick your finger down in the hole and you can lift that out, and you'll see your water meter. Next to the water meter.
Sometimes, Alan, it's covered with mud, so keep in mind you have to wipe that glass clean and wipe the fixture clean.
A lot of times in the South, that thing is completely full of dirt or mud or could be anything, because most people just don't go check those things very often. You don't think about it.
Can a raccoon ever nest in there?
No, because it's got a nice metal plate over the top of it. Not to saying there couldn't be a camel cricket or two in there to surprise you.
But Alan, also some people have a main cutoff for their whole house, which is always nice if you have that. And
that's
sometimes
generally
that's in
right
your kitchen.
there.
Right.
It's generally, and it's going to be this little bar sticking up, and what we call a water key is really nothing more than a metal stick with a fitting on the end of it that drops down over that, so you can easily turn your water key so you can shut off the water.
Can I sorry, Alan, you know when I get excited, I interrupt, but I want to say this is my little PSA. My son knows this because he's had many plumbing adventures and everything. I think it's just as important. You know how we when your kids are little, you say, in the event of a fire, this is the way we get out of the house. Let's go over a plan now. I think it's just as important to know if water just starts flooding or coming out, everybody in that house, I don't care if they're 7 years old, they need to know where the main cutoff is. Maybe they can't go to the street and cut it off, but if there's a way to mitigate that, everybody should understand, because that's serious damage,
Well, and, this is that time of year where maybe you're not home. Maybe somebody's checking on the house for you. Maybe you have an older home in Memphis. We'll dive into the walls here in just a moment. But my first piece of advice is you need a water key. They're $20 or less. They sell them at every hardware store on the planet. You can walk in and just say, you got a water key. And it could be any chunk of metal with the fitting at the bottom.
Well, these days, Alan, this is a question too, and I don't know if we're going to get into legal things here, but MLGW here in the Mid-South, they changed the water key to it's like a 5-headed. It's not a hex head. You would not find a wrench for this thing.
Right.
I almost think you have to use vice grips if you're gonna. What about that? And the other question: are we allowed to turn it off? I'm thinking, well, it's an emergency. You got to get out there. So
if it's on your side of the water meter, you can do anything you want because it's your fault.
I mean, it's one of those I almost would just ask for forgiveness, not permission. Because if I got water flooding my house, I'm going to turn that water off, whatever I have to do.
Well, it's the water to your home, and that is the reason you are provided that cutoff.
Okay. So we're allowed to do this. So,
yes,
so definitely
absolutely.
So get a hold, and that 5-star tool, I wonder if you can order one.
They have them at the hardware stores.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay, I never looked.
You can take a look and see what you got down there. Most of it's going to be the little bar, but if it is the new one, you know what? Get the appropriate water key.
Okay, so that's going to be really, you talk about a must-have item of the week.
Yes, that's a must-have item of the year.
And keep it as handy as you would keep the fire extinguisher.
Yes.
Keep it. Don't stick it in the back of the cabinet.
Hang it on a wall
in the garage.
somewhere where it can be grabbed in an emergency.
Or for your son's sake, keep the plunger.
Yeah. But Al, it's true, and you said older homes. It's every home. Any home is vulnerable.
Everybody's got a water shut off someplace.
Okay, well, we're going to circle back because we're going to continue discussing this, Alan, because like I said, I have an older home, and I'm sure a lot of other people in the Mid-South will relate to this problem. So we'll discuss it when we come back. Frozen pipes. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here on News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
You've got paper, and you've got paint. A deadly combination! Let me show you.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
Yeah, water is the enemy, and so is fire, Alan. We're keeping you safe here. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Alan Gilbert from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like and check out all the action over there. And go to Spotify. Enough of this. You know what to do. The one-stop shop, I think, is really our Facebook page. You can also go to tooltalkradio.com.
Tooltalkradio.com.
We're all over the internet. You can find us. So, Allan, in a minute, we're going to continue our discussion about our the cold weather, freezing pipes, how to protect your home, and also, especially if you live in a home like mine that's old and probably badly insulated and things like that. So before we get to that, though, let's talk about our friends at Tri-State Interiors. Mike Sarafolian with the impossible to spell last name. You'll never get it. Good luck. If that, maybe that could be his next promotion. If you can spell his last name correctly, you get 50% off installation or something.
Don't promise that.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll go that way. But anyway, Allan, we're big fans of his business practice because he's all about craftsmanship and keeping a low overhead and staying up to date on the latest technology, because that all three of those components, you're paying for overhead. If somebody's got a big flashy, trucks, showroom, all these things, that's money that you're paying for. So you want craftsmanship to be the main focus, but also, I know you're a big fan of the 3D renderings that they use to design your kitchen.
Oh, yes, because no matter how much thought you've given this, until you actually see it, you don't really get it. And with the, blueprints and drawings and, snapshots and samples are great, but they don't give you scale. They don't let you see how much green is that, or is that counter really going to work for you, or is that counter going to work with that backsplash? And a 3D render lets you basically on a computer screen stand in the middle of the room and turn around any direction you want to turn.
Yeah.
And it gives you the scale and look and color of everything that you have made a choice on without tearing down the walls.
Yeah, and at the beginning of the design process too, it's probably a lot of fun, Allan, because I'm assuming you're meeting there with Tri-State Interiors, and they're like, okay, make the cabinets gray.
Yes.
They click a mouse, make the cabinets this. Move that wall over there, do this, and that's got to be a lot of fun.
It is.
And so you get your 3D rendering once you've kind of mapped it out, and then they give it to you. They let you download it on your smartphone or your computer, and then you start sharing it with people. Then that's when you get the.
That's when the advice starts coming in.
Yeah, and you may get more advice than you want too, but you're going to get all the expert, But honestly, I think one thing you mentioned too, Allan, is. You're going to get your children's advice, or at least their input, which, okay, take that with a grain of salt, but it's good to know their view of things, because we tend to focus on what are we looking for in a kitchen remodel, but everybody lives in the house. You got to make sure it accommodates all of them. So it's a lot of fun. And then of course, once they get the design and everything's approved, they order every component. They order the countertops, they order the hardware, they order everything. And they don't start demolition or they don't start any work until all of the materials are safely in their warehouse, which makes it very efficient, because when the day comes to remove the flooring, they pull it out, they bring the new flooring in, they get that, they go from step to step, and it's very efficient, because let's face it, a kitchen remodel, you don't want that to drag on.
No, and there's nothing worse than getting 70, 80, 90% into a job to find out that the counter's not going to be here for 6 more weeks.
Yeah.
Or the sink has back ordered for another 3 months.
Right, especially with these supply
just too
chain
painful.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so give them a call. They're great people, and they have a big, they service a large area. They call themselves Tri-State Interiors for a reason. So call Tri-State Interiors. You can talk to Mike directly at 901-409-1333, or go to tristateinteriorsllc.com. All right, Allan, so we've been talking about this cold snap. Luckily, I think you said today the weather's going to be in the 40s, so I'm hoping that
going back to normal Mid-South weather.
But here I am, Allan. You and I host a radio show all about home advice and keeping your home safe, and yet I live in a 70-year-old home, and even following my own advice, my pipe still froze. So here's what I was going to ask you. So my kitchen sink is up against an exterior wall, and I mentioned that it faces east. So when in the morning sun hits it will warm it up. Thank goodness. Yes. But I left the pipes dripping 2 days in a row because overnight the temperatures got pretty cold. They got below freezing, and both nights my cold water has frozen up. I was luckily able to defrost it, but I sure don't want it to crack the pipes or anything like that. But here's the thing. Okay, so I don't have for the hot and cold, I don't have two separate knobs. I have that thing where it's like a handle, like you lift it up and you turn it to the left, or you move it to the left and that's the hot, you move it to the right and that's the cold. Well, I had it kind of tilted towards the right, and yet my cold water is still frozen. To be honest, I'm not really a big fan of this. I'm tempted to go get new faucets because I want to know exactly which side. Like in the bathroom, we have a hot and cold, and I can put both of them on to drip. But what's going on here? Like what?
Okay, well, you got a variety of forces working for you and against you. All right, for inside of every faucet is a little rubber bushing that helps prevent what we call kickback, or that you hear in old pipes.
Oh, right.
It's that sound you hear in every ghost hunting show that proves the place is haunted.
Yeah.
It's not haunted. It's the pipes. So
they're vibrating and they're banging against
exactly. If the pipes are not
securely
secured down or whatever, pipes vibrate and move.
Okay.
The other thing that's happening is you've got and I'm going to point out, most people live in an aging house these days.
Mm-hmm.
The big housing boom
here in Memphis, I bet a lot of people live in houses.
The big housing boom was post-World War II.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of houses and a lot of subdivisions built, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
Well, as loath as I am to think about it, the 80s was a long time ago.
Yeah, no kidding.
My
golden years were pretty. Yeah,
that was a long time ago. It's 2020. That was 40 years ago.
Yeah, thanks, Allan.
In a house,
keep reminding me. Yeah.
So in a house in your wall, since you have a 70-year-old house, in your wall between the exterior. The exterior, whatever the siding is.
We have brick down there.
Okay.
Actually. Yeah.
But whatever it is, to the area where the pipes, I promise you that your insulation has failed.
It's got to be, right? There's places in my house that I'm convinced I don't even know if there's insulation in those walls. I haven't removed them yet, but yeah.
Well, here's a big hint. You had squirrels.
Oh, good point. I've battled squirrels. That's a good point.
And they got down in your walls, and they made nests, and they tore up your paper, and they moved your fiberglass around. And so I promise you, if we were to take those bricks away, between the brick to the 2x4 to where your pipes is, I promise, is air.
The adventures of the squirrels and everything make me think of like men through the jungle, wielding machetes, cutting through the fiberglass. I could just picture little machete squirrels.
Now, what I want you
it's
to
uglier than that, Max.
What I want you to picture is a little squirrel in a suit and tie going, we have lovely condos over here. Would you like to see this one? This one has new fiberglass insulation.
Inviting their friends and their colleagues.
Because once one of them gets in, they invite the friends.
Yeah.
And it becomes a little squirrel frat house.
Yeah.
It's not the jungle. It's literally a frat house.
Okay, well, so here's the thing, Allan. Okay, so let's suppose you've got. Let's just assume. You should always assume maybe that there's drafts and there's especially if you have a sink against the wall. Well, what about this faucet situation? I almost feel like that's just as big of a problem for me because like I said, I lifted the faucet. The handle. I turned it slightly to the right, but I couldn't tell how much cold and how much hot is because if I turn it all the way to the right, then I suppose the hot water line is vulnerable, right? So
well, all right. The average home does not have a water recirculator, so a lot of businesses have a recirculator that keeps the water moving in the lines the whole time. So any line can be vulnerable, including your hot water line, because the water in the hot water line, once it leaves the hot water tank, cools off, and it's cold water.
Right.
So when you turn on your faucet, especially the one you have, you want to kind of get it in the middle so you're getting a little bit of hot and cold.
Well, that's what I did, Alan, and it froze
But
2 days.
But you didn't quite have enough cold.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of this. I'm tempted, and I don't know. I don't want to speak for faucet manufacturers, but folks, if you're in a similar situation to me, especially if you're listening a little further north, where maybe this happens more often, I don't know. Maybe think about getting a faucet with two, like a hot and a cold, just to make your life easier, especially if it's on an exterior wall. I think that would fix my problem, Alan, because I may or may not decide to rip my cabinets out and re-insulate. I don't think that's happening, Alan. I'm sorry.
Okay, well,
so this is step 2.
Well, and here comes the thing. When you think about remodeling or changing cabinetry or something like that, another thing that you need to talk to your contractor about is adding insulation to the walls, whether it be spray and foam insulation, whether it be batting. But always keep in mind, you might have to re-insulate at some time.
Good advice. Well, we'll wrap this up when we come back, Alan. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. We're gonna wrap up our discussion about the cold weather, but then, Alan, I've got a really interesting project involving refurbishing 140-year-old doors.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allen.
Is there anywhere in this town where we could buy a shrubbery?
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
I mean, you can buy the shrubberies. Just don't go to Allan Gilbert for shrubberies. You will be horrified and shocked.
You might get eaten.
It might be a violent encounter. Anyway,
it might be tasty,
but it might also be unforgettable.
Yeah, it'll be unforgettable. All right. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbert from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And, of course, go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page for all of the action. And you can get links to our past shows, all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, Alan, once again, we're backlogged a little. We got quite a bit to get to in this last half hour of the show, but I do need to announce something. I probably should have made more fanfare about this at the beginning of the show, but we can finally announce our new sponsor.
All right.
It's actually a friend of, somebody we've grown to know over the last year.
So it's a good friend of ours.
We're big fans of her work. Their company's work. And that's Shelf Genie of the Mid-South. Cindy Williams is the owner. It's a franchise, but they are, she's one of the top producers in the country. She's one of the, I've learned a bit about Shelf Genie, and she is one of the Shelf Genie of the Mid-South, you could say, is the elite. This is the elite squad of
it should be.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with Shelf Genie, what's cool about what they do is if you open your kitchen cabinets or your bathroom cabinets, you're going to notice a lot of empty space, especially near the top. Or you might notice that some things are hard to reach. You might be filling up your cabinets, but that pan, that skillet, Alan, in the back of the kitchen, that
it is.
You got to move 50 things to get it out. Well, they have these full extension glide out shelving systems, and they're, among other things, they basically have a way of reconfiguring your kitchen cabinets. It's like getting a new kitchen without removing your cabinets or anything. So even if you have newer or older cabinets, they have systems to help you reach everything. So for one thing, if you're somebody that wants to organize your kitchen better, I know you're big into the spice racks. That's sort of the thing you're all about. Or you just want to be able to access everything and store more in your cabinets. Or maybe you have mobility issues. Maybe it's difficult for you to lean way over or get way into the back of the cabinet. Well, these things you can glide them out with your fingers. I mean, they're very easy. They have lifetime warranties. They're great products, and they custom design every one of these systems to your needs. They show up, and their design consultation is free, but it's pretty comprehensive. They're going to go in there. They're going to, it's like, how often do you reach for the garlic powder? What are your kids, where do the kids keep their things? What can we do here? And it's kind of a fun, and it's free, but it's also a lot of fun because it's sort of, giving you a new perspective on your kitchen.
There's a lot of measuring.
Yeah, a lot of measuring. But it's lifestyle. And it's like, you've talked about this too, Alan. It's like, okay, well, your lifestyle changes every 5 to 10 years.
It does.
When your kids are 5 years old, it's a lot different dynamic than when they're 15 years old.
Very much so.
So but it's great. They have awesome systems, and they're really fun to work with. And like I said, all of it is quality, and really Shelf Genie in the Mid-South is one of the top franchises in the country. So, and they're partners with they're a part of the Neighborly Group, which we're going to talk about in the weeks ahead. So they're just great people over there. If you need to reconfigure your kitchen, or if you just need to better access, I promise you're going to love their systems. And you can meet Cindy and the Shelf Genie team at the Home Show of the Mid-South coming up next month at the Agri Center. It's February 25th through 27th. We'll be there, Allan. We will have the News Talk 98.9, the Roar booth, and Tool Talk Radio will be set up. Max, are you going, or are you going to be back in the studios for that?
Probably be back in the studios.
All right, he'll be at the
I'll be
command
further
center.
behind the glass.
Okay, he'll be further. So anyway, but we'd love to meet you there, and you can meet Cindy Williams. So, and they have a big footprint at the show. They always have a really impressive setup, so you can see what it's all about. But get in touch with Cindy at 901-233-2425, or go to, actually, that's the best way. You can also email her at cwilliams@shelfgenie.com. Contact her directly.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's good to have them on board, Allan,
Well, and I got to say this about their booth. Seeing is believing.
Well, you get to get in there and actually...
When
they
you actually,
bring the cabinets.
Right.
They
When you
bring the
actually
whole
get
thing.
to open a cabinet and go, oh, this pulls all the way out to here.
Right.
It's very impressive.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. They get a lot of reaction when they set up at a booth.
There's a lot of oohs and ahs.
Yeah, and I should mention, too, Allan, that they offer discounts. If you tell them, make sure you tell them that you heard about Shelf Genie on Tool Talk Radio, and they have lots of little goodies for you. In fact, discounts on installation and everything.
Yes.
So make sure you mention that you heard about it on Tool Talk Radio. Once again, you can contact Cindy Williams. It's not the Cindy Williams, is it, from Laverne and Shirley?
No.
I never asked her about that. She doesn't look like her.
No, not even close.
Okay, 901-233-2425. I wonder if she gets that a lot. Maybe that's why she's the top producer. Everybody wants to talk to her about the Laverne and Shirley days. Okay, anyway. Hey, Allan, one last thing. We talked about the frozen pipes. I'm going to just go ahead and say it. I'm thinking seriously of, because I have a kitchen faucet that's on the outside wall. I can never tell how much hot or cold is dripping out. I may just go ahead and replace that with one that's got a hot water faucet and then a cold water, just for my own peace of mind. I don't know, but
mechanically, the water mixing properties is a little easier with the two separate handles,
right?
In your particular case, and I've seen your sink, and it's about time for a new faucet anyway.
Yeah,
so
thanks. Okay. It's time for a lot of new things at my house. Anyway.
Well, now I'm going to throw in one little added extra little thing here. There have been a lot of variations and improvements in the drywall and insulation industries.
Yeah, the insulation's at the root of this problem. Anyway.
Right. And if you've got an older house and, really the whole idea of ripping out the walls is not very appealing. You don't have you don't have a big remodel project in mind. Get in touch with an insulation professional, and there are methods of cutting a hole either from the inside of the house or the outside of the house, into the area in between the 2x4s, and blowing in either a spray foam or a cellulose product to re-insulate that wall.
Well, I think that's where this is going, Allan, because, we have the thing is, it would involve moving cabinets or whatever else. However, I think you're right. There's probably a way to do it where maybe with minimal drywall, you cut a little hole in the drywall, blow it in,
and I'm not going to say this is a DIY project. This is definitely a project for a trained professional with a system, and that way they can give you the appropriate product to put in your wall. But it can be done without tearing out the drywall or tearing out the outside of your house.
Yeah, and address this, people. Don't just overlook it, because this is
it's never going to go away.
Well, and also it can become the nuclear option where suddenly the pipe cracks, and it doesn't take a big crack. You could get a hairline crack, and suddenly you're going to have a real problem.
Right.
So address that. So hey, Allan, we're going to shift gears in a minute. I want to tell you about a really interesting project I'm working on with involving antique doors. But Speaking of antiques, before we get to that, Alan, let's talk about you and what you've got going on over at darkoakmedia.com, because I'm sure it's something interesting.
Well, first off, it came from the International Market Show, has been added to Geeky Side TV. So on your Roku channel, on any TV featuring the Roku capabilities, and that is virtually every television on the world.
These days, yeah.
Yeah. You can just go to channel selection. You can get a free subscription to Geeky Side TV and watch any of our shows there.
Yeah.
Of course, the big funny right now is it came from the international market, where nice American people have to try weird stuff purchased from an international market. That's very, very funny.
Say weird stuff, Alan. That's not necessary. I don't know. Is that? Are you being sensitive to the?
Well, it's weird to the people trying it. They've never tried something from insert country here.
Well, there's foods that are more, common in other parts of the world,
Yes.
and maybe, yeah.
And now, due to wonderful international markets, that's food that's come close, and some of it, it's kind of fun when people make the great discovery and discover something new they love.
Yeah.
And of course, they try some other stuff that isn't necessarily to their taste. So it's amusing. It's very amusing. Another biggie we have going on right now is with Kalila Smith and Billy Roberts. The Scary Stories with Kalila is kind of a big hit for us. So people can dial in and watch psychics discuss the paranormal world.
Yeah, Alan travels in some weird circles, folks. And Max, I think we're up to about 15 food references today. So, all right, how do they check out darkoakmedia.com?
All they need to do is just take any browser and go to darkoakmedia.com or darkoakpress.com, and it will all appear upon your screen.
Okay. Yeah, then it sure will, folks. And prepare yourself.
What else is going to appear on our screen? Is this going to be a poltergeist situation?
Yeah, who knows?
Well, we can hope so.
All right, enough of the plug. So anyway, we're gonna get. Let me regroup. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here on News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. We're gonna take a quick break. Then I'm gonna tell you about the restoring 140-year-old antique doors.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
This castle is in unacceptable condition! Unacceptable!
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
Some people are never satisfied.
That's your customer, dude.
Yeah, I'm done with that guy. I mean, I'm not going for any more callbacks. He's never going to be happy. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Doris Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbert from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989, like somebody just did, Alan, saying that the first sawhorse, they actually tracked it and it predates human existence. Is that right?
It's one of those. It's kind of a fossil thing, but it was in the Pliocene 3.3 million years ago. Well, there you go.
All right.
AKA the first sawhorse was a brush pile. Got it.
You can also call or text us with actual home improvement questions. It's like all this random stuff. We get these messages about, you say one thing about a 18-foot skillet, and that's all you hear about the rest of the day.
My phone is lit up about the 18-foot skillet.
Sorry, I lost track of all the food references.
Yeah, and the food, everything. Well, Alan, let me tell you something that's related. This is a very interesting project I'm in the middle of because, here's my self-serving information. And I'll be quick. If you have a deck or a patio or a patio cover, I should say, or maybe a screened-in porch or a pergola or a fence or anything that you need that's made out of wood for the outside of your home, I would love if you'd give me a call. I enjoy those projects, and I work on them year-round. In fact, I'm going to look at a screened-in porch project next week, Alan. And it's a great time to do it. Wood's a little bit easier to get. You get all the work done, and when the spring arrives, you're ready to entertain and you're ready to enjoy the project yourself. And I'm happy to work year round. I prefer to wear a coat than if it's 30 degrees out, I'm happier than if it's 95 degrees out.
Oh, yes.
That's my thing. So anyway, you can call me or text me at 901-921-7105 or visit my website, thorshomes.com. Well, Alan, I don't know if I should be saying this on the air because I might start getting calls for this. This is something I'll do sparingly. I don't want to do it all the time, but, growing up, one of the things I've got a lot of training in, actually, folks, is classical furniture design. I've actually made furniture. I learned all of the classic techniques. Our teacher, Allan, was really big into saying, I want to show you how to make things with no screws or nails. It was all about, wood joinery and, dado joints and miter, all this stuff, and glue, basically. He wanted, and I know, Max, you're interested in some of the Japanese woodworking techniques where they don't use any glue.
I believe it's called sashimono.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. If you jump on YouTube, they have some, using angles and wedges and things like that. That's pretty cool. It gives you really interesting results. Well, I have a customer. She purchased, and I guess we'll give a shout out to Palladio. If you need antiques in the Mid-South, they've got a beautiful setup over on Central Avenue. A huge place. It keeps going and going. I didn't realize how big it was. They have a warehouse in the back. And so she purchased front doors and back doors. And when I say doors, it's really not fair to call them that, Allan. It is an entire, so it's an entire, it's got the side lights, it's got overhead, skylight and everything, or say side lights, I should say. So it's like 9 feet tall by, 7 feet wide or something. And she is building a new home over in Victorian Village, Allan, your stomping grounds. So it's going to have to be designed to fit in with the neighborhood. So it's going to be a new home, but the styling will be classic. So she wants these to be the centerpiece of this new home. So no pressure, So these things were falling apart, and so it's a front door and a back door, and so there's a few issues. I got to make sure it's structurally sound. I got to make sure it's fairly straight so it fits in we don't want it crooked, because how doors, they're off a little bit and they're not going to open and close.
Bit's going to make you haunt you. Yeah.
And plus there was some nice molding, and she wanted to retain as much of it as possible. So my job is to because I could just rip it apart and buy new molding, but that wasn't so I was trying to it's basically keeping it strong and making it look as nice as possible. So this is one of these classic cases, Allan, where in the old days, I would have just looked at this and go, oh, I could do this in a week. I knew better. I'm like, this is a 3 or 4 week job. And so this was a classic case of managing expectations. So right out of the gate, I told her, because somebody down the road had stripped these things. So they had been painted.
Okay.
They were stripped, but there were still remnants of what damage that does to the wood grain.
Right.
And I said, look, here's the deal breaker for me. Do you want these stained? And she said, well, not necessarily. I said, good, because there's no way I'm you know that, Al. You can't just stain works great on new wood or well-kept wood. It doesn't work good on wood that's been exposed to the elements for, because these are outside doors.
Right.
So that alone, that was one of these. I learned my lesson. You be realistic. So we were painting, and by painting these doors, because basically I'm going to get them to a condition where they'll be primed, and that's it. And then when it's time to install them, then the painting can be done. So managing the expectations, and plus it gives you a little more latitude, because if you have to stick some Bondo or wood filler in an area and you sand it smooth enough, you're not going to see it afterwards.
Right.
So, but this is what I wanted to throw at you, Allan, because one of the things that's fun about a project like this is you get to do a little detective work. And so basically, folks, if you can picture some doors that have like a little veneer, this has a little thin, like it's probably a 1/16 of an inch veneer on the front of the door. And at the bottom, it was completely puckering and full, and so. And in fact, somebody had even slapped an ugly piece of plywood on there, which, horrified me. So I took it off, Allan, and underneath was not solid wood. It was a bunch of slats. It was like 1.5 inches. It was 1.5 inches wide, and these little strips, and they were all assembled. Which I talked to a guy. Oh, even Allan's looking puzzled, because I was a little puzzled, and I talked to somebody that deals with this all the time, and they said that was sort of common. I think part of it had to do with this might have been built, I say 140. I think this was like from the 1890s. And as I recall, wasn't there a big recession in the world back in the late 1800s? I thought there was like a depression, something.
Well,
and what I thought was this was a money thing. They took the cheapest way to do this possible. They took a bunch of scrap wood and glued it together, which it was interesting from the perspective of it gave me a glimpse into what the situation in the world would have been like back then. I guess that's what I was getting at. So
you're talking about that transition period between the Edwardian to the Victorian, and you had a variety of shortages.
Right.
Periodically. And a lot of things weren't so much the cheap way of doing them, but how can we do it with the least amount of material?
Yeah, because I'm guessing there's not a lot of waste with this. It's
Right.
like basically taking all the scraps, cutting it into little strips, and well, there's another thing with that, Alan, is it eliminates the, folks, if you take a big board, and it's because these are pretty big doors, you take a 7-foot board. It's if it's a solid piece of wood, it can warp and bow and cup, and so getting that to a good state that could be difficult. And so I basically had to rebuild it, but I was able to take some pine. They actually, one of the big box stores sells pine that is exactly the size I needed. They were nice,
awesome.
1.5 by 1.5 8-foot strips, and so I cut them nicely. I rebuilt it, I screwed it together, and I put a thin veneer, and I did some Bondo. But what I was getting at is just the notion of it's very interesting if you come across something old. It gives you a window. It's like a time capsule in a way, and I find that stuff real interesting. My customer was even saying, "Can we leave any of this exposed?" Like you've seen some of the. Some of these maybe like a loft apartment over in some building that's maybe 100 and something years old. They might have plaster that went over the brick, but they decide, and it's falling off, and they might decide to just leave the brick revealed.
It reminds me, I'm referencing another deep cut of the Kintsugi segment where it's like embrace the imperfection, embrace the story behind the imperfection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, it's full circle. That's a good point because it is interesting. And it connects you with the past, and it's like, yeah, I agree, Max. It's kind of a.
I did a restoration a while back on a couple of pieces of furniture, and one of the things that they wanted to do to see how it was built on the inside is one area that had been damaged where the exterior had been torn away for some reason. We trimmed that up and made it look on purpose and actually inset a little piece of acrylic so that you saw the inside of the unit.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those little additives that the customer was looking at going, this is too cool to cover up.
That's the thing. And it's like, I think what I like, Alan, and this, you talk about coming full circle. I remember one episode of Tool Talk Radio where we were talking about how working with your hands or carpentry or being a plumber or something, it overlaps into other skills.
Oh, yes.
And I think this work, it's not surprising to me that people like Mike Rowe or people that work with their hands are also great storytellers. And there is a connection, I think, between, telling a story with a an antique door, or telling a story or just leaving, that's what makes the stuff interesting is the story behind it. So.
Well, and that's so true, and that is a topic that's been brought up recently by basically the disposable culture is what cool doors or what cool additives or what interesting things are you going to leave behind if it's basically designed to be disposable?
Good point. Yeah, and how much valuable and interesting things are looking us right in the face, or how many things do we walk past every day?
I mean, I'd say the reason that contractors are able to tell good stories is because their work exposes them to the stories. You're exposed to the brutal honesty of the terrible insulation in Joe's house, or the wonderful Palladio doors that you're working with.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a neat project. I don't know that I want to do it every day, Alan, but it wasn't bad to be able to get out of the cold either. But
right.
And it's been a lot of fun. And actually, it's been fun working over at Palladio because if you get a chance to visit there, check out their warehouse. You go through it, you'll find doors that maybe are 200 years old.
Oh, yes.
They have got a lot of old things, so it's pretty cool. But pretty good show today, Alan. It's always nice visiting with our buddy Jay Hill. Max has been on point with his rejoiners, and we've discussed a wide variety of topics. But as we say, time waits for no man. So it's about time for us to scoot out of here. So on behalf of my friend Alan Gilbreth and our buddy Max behind the glass, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.